Welcome back. It's lunchtime. We're working on the chipper, and today's project that I've been working on all morning is grease hoses. And I'll show you a couple different things that we got going on here. This is the kind of stuff I like right here. That's what I like. I like the hoses all to be together, easy to grease, just simple. The easier this thing is to grease, the more often it gets greased. Facts, truth. Stuff like this, I can almost guarantee you, me and Brian laughed about this the other day, that pin and the pin down below has been greased. Probably they're only greased from the factory, and that's it. Because there's a cover that goes over that, and I don't know if I have ever greased it. Maybe once. Maybe when I took the cover off, because you gotta dig this one out especially because it's right below your spout and some sawdust will get in there. I'll design this one so that it goes all the way back to the frame. They usually leave a gap. Sawdust goes in there, fills up, and then your stiff leg won't lift all the way up. So you have to take the cover off. I maybe have greased it, but like Brian said, these pins get greased maybe from the factory. That's about it. So what I like to do is I like to make everything easily accessible, just like this, only better. Because the easier the machine is to grease, the more it gets greased. Period. So this is the highly most maintenance machine that we have are our flails. This one in the 2755. The 23, the model 23 is a little easier because there's a little less going on, but there is some tricks to that one too with your clutches and whatnot. This one's a total different setup, much like the new one. A little simpler because you don't have a second engine up there. A little less going on. And back here it's real simple, and then up here it's more hydraulics. You don't have as much grease stuff. So I started the grease projects today, kind of how we went over it. I just dragged my feet, and people always are complaining about it. So like this bearing here usually always comes out around and down, and you can see where there was a tab right here welded on that you could grease that. The problem is you have to get up top to still grease that. So double them up, run hoses down here. We'll put another thing right here where we can put two of them. Then you can grease that bearing and that bearing at the same time. Just making it simpler, more simple, simplerist. So then back here, there's actually two grease certs coming out of that one. So you have three back here. And we'll put them all underneath. We'll put two. One will connect to that, and then you'll have two below it. Real simple, grease those up. Just easier the better, just like that'll never ever get greased. And then there's a lot more greasing going on up in your boom. That stuff's gonna take time. And your bearing for your turret, all that stuff, just that is what it is. So you're still gonna have to do some greasing up there, like your cylinder here and your cylinder here. Your pins on that are gonna have to get greased, but at least you don't have to walk over here to the edges and grease that outer bearing, because we're gonna run it like a boss. So we'll run those two down. They'll pop out up here. And then what I did is you got three feed wheels. This is called your out feed. That's called your in feed. Once it goes through the flails, it's coming out in the chipper disc. Chipper knowledge. But so instead of them all had grease certs on them, every feed wheel. There's one more back here, the last one. So we run grease hoses all the way back to here, and we'll pop two more of these out right here. So we actually have five right there. That'll be your front, your bearing, that bearing, those three bearings. So that's what I like, is real simple to grease. It just gets done so much, it's faster, it's more efficient. The guy greasing, it's happier. Operator's happier. So back here, this is kind of what I'm talking about. I'll explain to you here real quick what irritates me. And the new one's a little better. This will be the most easy to grease flail that I have come across, personally, with the three that I've dealt with, four that I've dealt with, because I want it to be easy and simple. I want it to get greased. So you have, like, this was the bearing right here for your flail. That tab back there, can you see it? was another grease spot for something. And then you also have a bearing here. So you have like these three different things that have to get greased. That one's easy. That one back there is not easy. And on the new chipper, it's the same way. There's a greaser here. It's not easy to get back in there. You see all your hoses. I mean, yeah, you can get back in here, but it's not easy because it's a ways back in there. It's just not easy. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So we got feed wheel back here, and then you got grease zerks on your bearing here. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna run those two, that one, 3 of those will come down here. We'll put a junction all along here. I already got 1 hose run, 2 are ready to put on. The bearing for this, that's that hose right there that I already made. The bearing that holds the shaft for that, there's 2 grease zerks up there. Those will shoot down back over here too. With those 3, those 2 up there, this one here. So we'll shoot them all down. They'll all be, everything back in this corner will come out to right here. So you just stick it on there. I mean, it's just simple. I mean, honestly, it's safer. And I'm not a big safety guy. You all know that. Air compressor kicks on. I need to be more of a safety guy. Let's be honest with each other today. Crawling up and down this all the time to grease stuff, it's not easy. Let me show you how you had to grease these before. So you crawl up here. You got to get down in there to grease that. You know what I mean? It's not easy to get to at all. And then that one had the 1 hose coming out that ran up to the front. So we already got that one in. But you still have stuff that you have to grease like that. You know what I mean? And your pin. There. And your pin up there. That's all normal. That's stuff that you know that you have to do. The problem is when there's hidden ones, that's where you get to have issues. But Webasto heater's hooked up. Ready to go. So yeah, and I have one more important hose to run. I haven't worked on yet because I'm honestly out of fittings. But I have all of them in one spot. I guarantee you it'll get greased more. I guarantee you it'll just be easier for the operator and safer. I know, I said it. So there's one more bearing that's important to grease. And it's up in there. For that fan. You can't even hardly see it. There's a spot up there and it has to get greased. I haven't been up in here to look at it yet, to be honest, but I'll show you. So up into here, you have your fan motor and your air conditioning condenser runs off. The air conditioning pump runs off from that too. So there's a grease hose up there that has to get installed and run down here. I don't even know where it's at, but we'll run it out somewhere like this. You know, and drill it out a little bigger and put it right there. Make it real simple to grease. Because, like I said, if it's not easy, I want them to be able to walk around it, and you can get half of them by just walking around it. It'll be a lot easier. That big 2755. I mean, after you run it for a couple hundred hours, you have a system that you would work, and that's what I would do. I would start. Here, I'll show you what I would do on the 2755. We got the camera on. I'll explain it to you. I would start. There's a section of grease zerks on that one. It's a total different setup. Not total different, but it's different. There is like 4 grease zerks right here mounted. I would start here, work my way back to the ladder, crawl up the ladder, work my way across the top, go all the way, all the grease zerks along the top. Those bearings you have to do. That one has cylinders on the side that hold the flail drums up. So you have 2 cylinders, one on each side of the flail drums instead of just the one singular. So those require grease too. So you have those. You work your way down, work my way all the way up to the front where you have to do your spout. Okay, your spout takes grease. I'll show you where. it's spinning together. That takes grease. And then the cylinders take some grease. So work my way up here. I would crawl down. This is the exact same setup that's on the 2755. The only difference is there's hoses running right here that you have to lift up out of the way to get to that last two. So you get to the last two, you do those, and then I'd work my way to the back, and then I would do my yoke pins that are in the back, the two yoke pins in the very back, and then I would spin my boom around, set it on the, or no, I'd leave it right where it is. I'd hump it up, pick your center up a little bit, and then you could go through and grease your boom. I'd usually have to do that separate just because it took me, I didn't ever have it set. It's like whenever you go to grease, you never have it set up the way you want it, but those do not get greased. So those are greased once a year, repacked and cleaned out every year. Usually in the spring. I think Josh just did his, but I usually do it around frost loss because it seemed like you had a little bit of a break sometimes. But that bearing and the other bearing do not get greased. So yeah, that's how I greased it, but I'm just trying to make it super simple, super easy for the operator. I got to make one more hose over here for the conveyor, and your conveyor's got it's got the two bearings for your top drive shaft, and there's no grease. We're gonna have to run some grease hoses down because you have to cram up the conveyor to grease them, and it's like in the middle of winter. Not a fan of them hanging off the side of the conveyor. Not fun. But like the bearings for this side of the conveyor over here where this roller shaft is, you have one here. They got this one here. I'll tuck that up out of the way. I don't like that hanging down. That one's gone. So put a new one on there. But yeah, that's what I'm doing today. Making this as easily greasable as possible. I think we're getting somewhere. We're close, everybody. We're really close. Brian's got, I am not touching, he's not here today, but I am not touching his Webasto stuff. That's his girl. This is just, I'm doing everything else I can. This is an annoying, because every one of these hoses has to be measured out. We don't have any to copy. So it just takes a little more time, a little more patience. One thing that I'm not happy with, two things here. That hose that I built should have followed that whole line down and come out to here. It would look a lot more professional. Okay, must have had a brain fart when I was working over here. And then this hose that runs to that motor there is too tight. So if I get time, which I never will, I will make a new hose. Give me another foot longer there, and I could even do to that one so that it all looped together and look professional grade, because that right there doesn't look professional grade. Anywho, hopefully you guys enjoyed our grease talk. There's just a lot of grease going on, and you got to have it readily accessible for all the guys, you know what I mean? Easier, the better. Kind of what we're getting at. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Just keep rolling.